The chamber shimmered with light refracted through crystalline walls, casting geometric patterns over the gathered delegates. 12 of the most dominant species in the known galaxy sat around a crescent amphitheater, their various forms exuding confidence, disdain, or, at best, indifference. Their collective gaze drifted toward the single figure standing at the center, a human woman, unarmed, unenhanced, and undeniably out of place. Dr. Alara Miles adjusted her translator pin and exhaled slowly. Her tailored navy suit was crisp, though dust from her travels still clung to her boots. Earth had only recently been deemed stable enough to petition for a voice in interstellar affairs, and Alara was its first ambassador. As she raised her head to speak, the murmuring began. "Is it a child?" One delegate whispered in telepathic relay. "Can't be. No mind shield. No enhancement field. She's baseline. A novelty, at best." Alara heard none of the telepathic currents, but she didn't need to. The curling of tendrils, the visible eye rolls, every flicker of movement made their contempt clear. Still, she pressed forward. "My name is Dr. Alara Miles. On behalf of the people of Earth, I submit our petition to join the Unified Council of Sentient Civilizations." Silence followed, brief and pregnant. A tall, carapaced being from the Korthak Dominion leaned forward, clicking his mandibles. "Petition denied. You possess no psionic capacity. Your military reach is negligible. Your biosphere is, in fact, barely self-sustaining. You contribute nothing. You risk everything." Alara didn't flinch. "We've studied every member civilization's charter of sentient equivalence. None mention power as a prerequisite. Only will, stability, and intent." A ripple of amusement spread through the chamber. The Valithi Prime, a being of suspended mist contained within a floating sphere, pulsed with blue light, laughter in its native form. "Intent? And what would your people offer the galaxy? Recipes and war stories." The laughter grew, more open now, more cutting. Alara folded her hands, knuckles pale. "Empathy, mediation, peace strategy, and perhaps a perspective you've long forgotten. What it means to survive without supremacy." From the rear section, a silent figure observed, his face hidden beneath the shadow of a silver cowl. Broad-shouldered, unmoving, his presence was a contradiction, unregistered, but unchallenged. None addressed him. None dared. Counselor Drevtal of the Ixari leaned forward, voice oily. "We're not here for lectures. We are here because rumors place your kind at the center of recent pirate activity in the Fryland corridors." Alara's eyes narrowed. "That's a lie. Do you speak for all humans, Dr. Miles?" "No, but I speak with evidence. Earth's fleet hasn't left our system. We don't even possess faster-than-light warships." Drevtal smiled, a sharp, predatory gesture. "Then you'll have no issue accepting a formal inquiry. Or perhaps a trial?" The trap was obvious, and she knew resistance would appear like guilt. But submission wouldn't protect Earth either. Before she could answer, the silent figure in the back rose. A hush fell over the room. Even the counselors, immense in power and pride, shifted. He removed the cowl. Recognition flickered like wildfire. Several delegates stood instinctively, others froze. The room's energy changed. Vierak. The name spread unspoken, like an ancient wind. Warrior of the unyielding front. Destroyer of the Mechari swarm. The strongest recorded life form, missing for over 5 decades. He stepped forward, not toward the council, but toward Alara. And then, unexpectedly, sat. No greeting. No declaration. Just presence. Alara turned, blinking. "Do I know you?" "No," he said, his voice like tectonic plates grinding beneath the sea. "But I've watched." No one spoke. Counselor Drevtal coughed. "You do not represent the Vraxan Imperium. You have no authority here." Vierak didn't answer. His eyes, pale gold, remained fixed on Alara. The moment passed, and Counselor Thun of the Kalari broke the silence. "This interruption changes nothing. Earth is still under review. The matter of the Fryland pirates remains unresolved." Until further evidence, your petition is suspended. Alara said nothing. Her expression remained unreadable, but her fingers clenched the datapad at her side just slightly harder. The chamber began to empty, one delegate at a time. The Valithi floated away without a backward glance. The Korthak clicked disdainfully. Drevtau lingered, then left. Vierak did not move. Outside the chamber, Alara leaned against a marble column and finally exhaled. Her recording drone floated near, silently logging events for Earth's archives. She turned it off. Some things weren't meant for history. She heard footsteps. Vierak stood across from her again, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You don't belong here," he said. "I know. You came anyway." "I had to." He paused. "They will try to break you. Let them try." A ghost of something, approval? Amusement, passed over his face. As he turned to leave, he said without looking back, "You're not what they expected. That will be their first mistake." Alara remained still, her heart loud in her chest. She wasn't sure what had just shifted, but she felt it. The air tasted different. Somewhere in the deep dark, something had taken notice. And it was only just beginning. The chains weren't metaphorical. Cold metal bit into Alara's wrists as she was marched through the arched gates of Draction. 4. A penal moon orbiting a dying star. Crimson sands shifted beneath her feet, stirred by winds that carried the scent of rust and ozone. The guards, not organic beings but bipedal constructs forged by the SYRR collective, uttered no commands. They didn't need to. Their faceless visors and electrified rods spoke enough. The official charge, conspiracy with pirate forces. The unofficial reason, fear. Fear of the human woman who hadn't flinched before the strongest being in the galaxy, who had earned Vierak's silence and attention, and not through violence. They wanted her forgotten. She was thrown into a containment cell, an open-air pit carved into the rock. Around her, the penal zone pulsed with activity. Exiled warlords, broken mercenaries, even telepaths who had lost their minds to deep space silence. The worst of the galaxy gathered here, not to be punished, but to be forgotten. Alara sat quietly, hands now free but trembling. Her neural implants, basic Earth-grade interface nodes, had been deactivated upon arrival. She was blind to the interlink web, unable to reach anyone. No counsel, no trial, just exile. Night fell quickly on Draction 4. The stars here were dimmer, and the moon's rotation brought a freezing chill that clawed through her clothes. She huddled near the central fire pit with other inmates, all silent at first. But her presence alone, unguarded human, drew interest. A tall, four-eyed being approached, scales rippling in the low firelight. "You're the one who made the Senate laugh." She met his gaze. Briefly, yes. "Then you're either mad or brave. Or both." He chuckled, revealing too many teeth. "Names matter little here. But stories? Those get you respect." Alara didn't respond. She had no interest in storytelling games. But others leaned in, curious. She could feel it, the pull of something ancient. Even here, power gathered in narratives. She spoke, but not of Earth's grandeur or her credentials. She spoke of endurance, of cities rebuilt after catastrophe, of peace forged without superiority, of people who, even without telepathy or superweapons, still chose compassion over conquest. It wasn't grand, but it was real. By morning, no one spat at her feet. By the third day, the guard stopped escorting her everywhere. She walked freely. But the moon held more than criminals. On her 6th day, she found him. He sat at the edge of a collapsed thermal vent, legs crossed, surrounded by nothing but silence. He was larger than she remembered, bare arms veined with gold-tinted muscle, his eyes closed, unmoving even as the wind screamed across the plateau. "Vierak." She approached cautiously. "You followed me here?" "No," he said, eyes still closed. "I was already here." "That's not possible. They said you vanished." "I chose exile. Power is an invitation to destroy. I refused. He opened his eyes. And yet here you are, thrown to the wolves for speaking truth. Truth doesn't matter if no one's willing to listen. You're wrong, he said. You just spoke to a pack of killers last night and they listened. Alara sat beside him, the silence between them stretching wide but not empty. You weren't just watching in the chamber, were you? She asked. Why did you really speak then? I saw something rare, he said. A voice that didn't beg for attention, or scream for dominance. You didn't want power. That's why you deserve it. She looked away. I didn't ask for any of this. No one worthy ever does. That night, the sky lit with fire. An explosion in the North Quadrant. A dreadnought pierced Draxion's lower orbit, its insignia unfamiliar. Pirate fleet, armed with forbidden tech. Sirens blared. The guards fell into chaos. The prisoners? They watched. No escape existed on Draxion 4. No hangars, no ships. The pirates weren't here to rescue anyone. They were here to mine something ancient buried deep in the rock. An energy core abandoned by the SYR during the Second War. If ruptured, it would destroy the moon and ripple into nearby trade routes, causing thousands of civilian deaths. Alara ran. Not away, but into the storm. She found herself in the command cave, now overtaken by pirates coordinating excavation. Her presence startled them. They hadn't expected an unarmed woman. They raised weapons. Before they could fire, the cave shook. Rock split. Vierak descended like judgment. No longer hiding. No longer silent. He moved like a force of nature, not fighting for glory, but to protect the one person who had reminded him of something worth protecting. When the dust settled, the pirates were gone, unconscious or fleeing. The energy core remained sealed. Alara stood among the wreckage, her breath shallow, eyes meeting Vierak's. I didn't ask you to come. You didn't have to. A council emergency beacon, long dormant, activated with the collapse of the command node. Within hours, Senate agents arrived in orbital dropships, scanning for survivors. They found two, a silent warrior, standing with arms crossed, and the human woman he guarded like a flame in the wind. Neither explained what had happened. But by the time they were lifted from the moon, the message had already begun to spread. The pirate fleet hadn't fled from weapons. They had fled from a woman the galaxy once laughed at, and a myth who had chosen to kneel. The doors to the Galactic Senate chamber parted with a hiss, and the light that flooded and carried more than just illumination. It brought expectation. Every delegate was already seated. Word traveled faster than light in some corners of the galaxy, and whispers of what had occurred on Draxion, for had long since preceded the return of Alara Miles. She walked in alone, but no longer unnoticed. Her posture was the same, straight-backed, steady, but something beneath the surface had shifted. There was a stillness to her now, not born of submission, but of confidence forged under pressure. Her clothing bore minor scorch marks, her hands carried faint tremors. Yet her gaze never wavered. The delegates stared. Some leaned forward in disbelief. Others narrowed their eyes, studying her like a riddle they'd underestimated. Behind her came the sound that changed everything. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps. The strongest being in living memory entered the chamber, not with weapons, not with declarations, but with quiet intent. Vierak crossed the chamber floor, stopping beside Alara. He said nothing. Then he did what no one could have imagined. He knelt, one knee to the polished obsidian floor. Head bowed. Both fists planted on the ground in the gesture of ancient submission, not to a superior in strength, but to one in spirit. The room froze. Movement halted. Minds raced. Counselor Drevtal stood abruptly, his voice strained with disbelief. This is absurd. Vierak does not serve. He leads. Vierak did not lift his gaze. I follow her. A gasp rippled across the amphitheater. Counselor Thun's translucent form flickered, uncertain. This violates precedent. No unaffiliated being may influence council procedures in this way. Alara stepped forward. He does not speak to influence you. He speaks to bear witness. She turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. You sent me to die. Not for guilt, but because you feared what I represented. You couldn't categorize me, so you discarded me. And yet I returned, not to punish you, not to plead, but to prove that strength lies not in dominance, but in understanding. The Valithi Prime pulsed with pale light. You speak well, but words do not change law. I don't seek to change law, she said. I seek to remind you of it. The Charter of Sentient Equivalence. By every written measure, social stability, cognitive development, peaceful intent, Earth qualifies. You denied us not on merit, but on prejudice. A silence heavier than stone settled over the chamber. Then the unexpected happened. The delegate from the Nkar Dominion, a species whose reputation for ruthlessness was near legendary, raised 2 of its 7 limbs. Earth votes welcomed. One voice. Another followed, and another. A chorus began to build, tentative but growing. Even those who had laughed before now sat still, the ridicule drained from their expressions. Not from fear, but recognition. They had witnessed something ungoverned by protocol or bias, an act of deference from the galaxy's most revered warrior to the weakest species ever to stand among them. Counselor Drevtal seethed. This changes nothing. One life form's reverence does not establish worth. Vierak rose to his feet and turned to face him, eyes like twin suns burning cold. You mistake reverence for submission. I do not kneel lightly. I have broken stars. I have killed gods. But in her, I saw no hunger for conquest. Only courage born of conviction. That is power your kind cannot fathom. Drevtal sat down slowly, saying nothing more. The vote passed. Unanimous. Alara didn't smile.
She didn't weep.
She stood in still silence, letting the moment pass through her without claiming it. Later, as the chamber emptied and the artificial night descended over the Senate spires, she stood by a wide viewing port, watching trade ships blink across the galactic horizon. Vierak joined her, arms folded behind his back. Was it what you wanted? He asked. No, she said. It was what Earth needed. He nodded once. You could command fleets, he said. They'd follow you now. I don't want their swords, she replied. I want their trust. And you have it? She turned to him. I have a beginning. That's more than I had yesterday. He looked down at her, not with superiority, but with a guarded respect. They will test you again. Let them, she said. We've passed the first test. The stars shimmered like ancient witnesses, watching the galaxy begin, however slowly, to shift. And in the heart of it stood a human, once ridiculed, now remembered, not as a warrior, not as a savior, but as the first of her kind to be truly heard.